It all started when the cosmic dark god created a game called Prison Day, and it descended to the planet Earth 20 years ago, bringing great calamity and paradigm shift to humanity. It had dungeons of various difficulties, and players were chosen randomly. If you successfully cleared a dungeon, you could obtain powerful cards and completely change your life, but if you failed, you would be permanently sealed within the game. Everyone believed they could defeat the boss, obtained S-rank cards and became the winner. However, the difficulty of each dungeon was beyond imaginable, leaving only one sole survivor. In the protagonist's perspective, all of his wishes would be granted if he continued to clear dungeons and kept getting stronger. But the winner's ending was offered to become a god, not the ending that he wished for. His name was Kurosu Tokiya, the strongest player and the protagonist of the story, and the one who refused to become a member of the Dark Gods. The Dark God further elaborated that he would obtain eternal life and a power of a god if he accepted the offer, ruling the entire universe as the strongest player of all. Once again, his response was a firm no, believing that he had always made the wisest choices, whereas he lost too much along the way. His mother, his friends and his girlfriend, all those people he cherished the most died inside the game. Going further, the Dark God asked Tokiya to state his next wish. It wasn't that much, but that's what Tokiya wanted. Just a peaceful and cherished life daily. However, the Dark Lord shattered that life into a million shards by descending the game into the world. The Dark Lord was displeased by his wish, charging to destroy the world with the cherished memories that Tokiya had. Before his tentacles could land a blow in the world, a golden card appeared in his hand, glowing with yellow electricity. It wasn't just the card, his entire body was glowing with a golden aura. He informed the Dark Gods that he obtained an S-rank card that couldn't be controlled by any of them. It was an S-rank card named Time Reverse. When activated, it could rewind time and erase all the memories of everyone except for the user. It allowed the user to redo everything in their lives. Disbelief slapped on his face, never expecting that he would obtain such a powerful card. Despite that, the Dark God was still interested in meeting him again. Activating the card filled everything with random numbers and shapes, closing the dark dimension with its golden glow. In the midst of activation, he swore to the Dark God to destroy them with his very own hands while protecting those people that were precious to him. And just like that, he jolted in bed as if having a horrible nightmare, chasing every breath he could. Staring at his hands in disbelief made him realize that his back, before the game ever started. And to confirm his whereabouts, he swung his gaze around only to find out that he was at the Midorasaki City Hospital. While deeply sinking in his thoughts, his mother came in, asking if he was having another bad dream. Shock caught him off guard, leaving him with a mix of emotions. That's because in his previous life, her consciousness was permanently sealed inside the game, and became a vegetable. It had been ages since the last time he talked to his mother. Longing for the presence of his mother, he hugged her tightly, mumbling how much he had missed her. The protagonist of the story, Kurosu Tokiya, had been hospitalized since childhood with severe dissociative disorder. That kind of disease was once called multiple personality disorder. He constantly heard random voices from multiple personalities in his head, and no one ever believed him when he stated that it wasn't a lie. Because of his illness, he couldn't get a job or even have a relationship. Apparently, there's no time left. Checking the time on his phone to confirm how much time had left before the prison day started. It was the 23rd of February at exactly 6 p.m. when the game started. Basically, he had 34 minutes left. He was putting on his slippers when his mind was still occupied, recalling how his consciousness would be forcibly transferred, and if he lost, he could never return to reality. Or worse, he would become brain dead in reality, if he died in the game. New players would start from E-rank dungeons, therefore he had to write down all the strategies he could remember as possible. Only a few were difficult and the rest weren't too hard if he knew the hidden rules. He had to finish writing everything in just 10 minutes. He thought about writing it in a simplified way so his mother would easily understand it, in order to increase the chance of survival, including his friend Keita. Unlike his father, his mother had always been there for him, and never thought of abandoning him. His father, who abandoned him and his mother, used up all of their family's money including the money for his therapy. Since then, his mother raised him all by herself and went through a lot of hardships, never losing a single light of hope. While busy writing down, the door slid open and appeared a man with a buzz cut, carrying a plastic bag loaded with oranges. He smiled gracefully as he greeted Tokiya, and in response, Tokiya smiled back by telling him that it had been long since he last saw him. Puzzlement struck his face, scratching his head while recalling that they just met each other 3 days ago. Anyways, this guy was the protagonist's childhood friend, Janukai Keita. During their childhood, it was Keita who stood up for him when people in their neighborhood treated him like an invalid. Regrettably, Keita died in his previous life while helping him clear a dungeon. In his curiosity, Keita asked regarding the notes that Tokiya wrote, making him occupied. It was a strategy guide that he was writing. Keita was surprised, knowing that he wasn't allowed to play games since it would worsen his condition. Even if that was the case, he had to play. Finishing up, he handed the booklets to Keita, informing him to hand the other one over to his mother. Keita's jaw almost dropped to the ground that Tokiya's mother would play as well. Tokiya's stone face didn't change, further elaborating to read it thoroughly and memorize as much as he can. It would be a big help when the time came. Confused with his strange behavior, he chose to nod in agreement. In order to protect the people he cherished, he had to become the strongest player again, and for that to happen, he had to collect all 15 S-rank cards. By defeating every monster, you got cards from E rank to S rank, weapon cards, ability cards, item cards, special cards, and obtained various powers. However, there were only 15 S-rank cards, which had an absolute effect that even the dark gods couldn't interfere, including the time reverse. Those S-rank cards would be his trump card in defeating the dark gods. He must collect them at all costs. Time checked, and the peaceful daily life that he had wished for would end in a minute, and would turn the world into a living hell. And speaking of the devil, a red notice suddenly appeared, congratulating him for being chosen as a player in the first group of Prison Day. By that, the loading of the game started, carefully exporting his soul with his in-game memories in tuck. Gritting his teeth, he swore to protect the people he cherished this time and defeat that foolish god who toys around the world. Finally, the system bar appeared, welcoming his arrival to Prison Day. The system continued as it was downloading the protagonist into the first E-class dungeon while creating the scene. The protagonist's soul had been successfully loaded according to the system bar, and was currently deleting his real-world memories, transplanting in-game memories in his mind. It didn't go well. Red system bars appeared alarming that deleting his real-world memories had failed. Nevertheless, the system continued generating the boss of the dungeon while the exploration was available. Successfully, he had been loaded in the first E-class dungeon, and just like his previous life, it was a dungeon that looked like the real world. Some players had their memories erased and believed that was the real world. For some unknown reason, his memories weren't erased. If it was similar to his previous life, then he must be in the opening E-class dungeon, the Death Office. In this dungeon, they needed to defeat 3 bosses with different skills. Although it was a low-level E-class, the difficulty gradually increased, which made it quite difficult for newcomers. To check his status, he commanded the system to open his status panel, and a transparent blue box appeared in front of him. The panel showed his picture and his name flashing at the top, and all of his attributes reverted to 0, making him look like a new player. Staring at his system panel made him realize that defeating 3 bosses with that status made it impossible. He had to increase his abilities first. Not just the 0 status, an unidentifiable blessing left him wondering if that was the reason why his previous memories in his old life remained. Anyway, he needed to get an ability card to defeat the stage 1 boss. Until he remembered the hidden side quest in the dungeon. If he could get an ability card, clearing it shouldn't be too difficult. He still had 10 minutes before the main quest would start. That's enough time to deal with the side quest. And the voices that he heard ever since he was kid, he heard it again when he could reincarnate it, and it was clearer than before. Those voices were talking about saving the world, defeating the dark god and things related to it. After a couple of hours running, he made it to the restroom, where he believed the side quest was hidden. Just as he thought, a system bar emerged, stating that he arrived at the hidden location, making the hidden quest automatically start. He kicked the door open, determined to end the side quest as soon as possible. Only to be greeted by an urban legend monster lurking in the men's restroom called the Cowardly Ogre, according to the system bar that appeared. It was on the chest as if he was guarding it, and as soon as he noticed Tokiya, it became aggressive towards him. Apparently, those levels of aggressiveness were no match against the piercing glare of Tokiya, threatening the monster to get out or he would smash its face. As simple as that, the monster folded, and he lived up to its cowardly name that he quickly disappeared from the scene. The system bar appeared, telling that he defeated the cowardly ogre and obtained a treasure chest. Before he could get a hold of it, another system bar appeared, informing that the treasure chest couldn't be unlocked since there was no key. Unfortunately, he didn't fall for the same trick again. He stamped onto the chest, disregarding the text written in the system bar, and the chest broke on the ground. He found what he needed inside the chest, 3 basic cards that would help him clear the dungeon and defeat the Stage 1 boss. Those were basic E cards that would activate his locked status, stamina card, speed card and power card. Activating the cards helped him level up his stamina, speed and power with a limit of below level 5. The effects were slight but clear to his body. By activating the panel with ability cards, they became a formal player, and even at level 1, it was incomparable to a normal body. With those stats and the experience from his previous life, clearing the opening dungeon would be a piece of cake. But there was still one thing he needed to clarify: the unidentifiable blessing that he obtained from the very beginning of the game. Desperate to know the answer, he shouted to the system, pressuring it to say if the owner of the voice gave him the blessing. He playfully thought that it wouldn't give him an answer, until a voice replied that everything depends on him. To his surprise, he witnessed a massive black shadow forming a human behind him. He had so many unanswered questions, yet the system bar wouldn't give him the leisure. It appeared just in time to announce that the boss of the dungeon had been generated and the raid mode had now started.